So I'm going to invite all three gentlemen back up on stage with me, and going to have a little panel discussion. I'm going to ask a few questions, and I'm going to turn it over to the audience and your great questions that you've been throwing up all day as well. So thank you again, gentlemen, for joining me. I'm going to go analog. They tell me this stuff is called paper. I'm not really used to using it, so we and I'm gone again. Okay. Now we've talked a few times about today the SDLC itself. We announced in January. We open sourced it from Ford in 2013, and AppLink was around before that. So while we've made some really big strides in the last 9 months, this has been around for a while, and you guys have all been part of that, and it's very exciting to see it evolve. From what you guys showed, I'm glad that you guys are excited as well. So we've seen the different contributions. Tell us about what it was like, developing for SDL. What experiences you guys had, and what your development efforts were. What was the ease? What were the tools that you used? What were the hurdles that you had to come across? Yuri?
Yeah. So. We definitely had something to compare with as our long history into developing of such solution, and we even know a little bit how it looks from inside to develop this or prepare this solution. So one thing is to use something which was developed by other company, another one is to be inside and developing it internally. Well, for us it was fairly easy to use SDL as we had quite a lot of insight on this, but what we can definitely compare is with other connectivity solutions that were available to the market, CarPlay, Android Auto, and MirrorLink. The huge advantage, which even we saw, although we definitely were in favor of one solution, that you can really influence on what you develop. When you take some of other technologies available on the market, you basically work with a black box. And this not only limits your capabilities and possibilities of the use cases that you can implement, there's not really much to develop. So from the engineering point of view, from the point of engineer, you don't really develop for CarPlay so much. You just put it inside the system, you just make sure it works, it runs through the all tests, and that's it. It's not so much development rather than integration. When SDL is a different story. You can integrate SDL the way you want, you can adapt it because it's an open source solution, you can adapt it to your architecture, you can make sure it fits best, and eventually that's a benefit for you because you can use it in a much more variety of use cases and much more scenarios how you want, and that eventually benefits for your users and for your customers. So yeah, I think it's like black and white, even if I may say so, development with SDL and other solutions, and SDL is definitely on its own niche from this point of view.
Very good. Mike?
So developing for the SDLC was actually an interesting, also personal experience in a sense that I'm working for Elektrobit for a long time, and we're doing production software with very strict rules, and my idea of open source was this is something where whoever can throw some features in there, and there's not much control about quality. The experience, however, in the last year was the guys from Livio do a great job in the way they apply the rules. I think the level of scrutiny is not worse than what we're doing for production development. And that was personally an interesting experience.
Lonnie?
Yeah, I'd echo the same comments as my colleagues here. I'd just like to point out an example that our team started with over a year ago. We actually were very fortunate to engage with the Ford team on a proof of concept in regards to navigation on SDL, and we very much enjoyed the experience. It was a lot of teamwork. At the consortia here last night, saw some of the other team members that actually helped us put this together, and I think our developers have been very complimentary as far as again, I just say the overall the teamwork and the support in helping getting something out that we could show. We actually demonstrated, I think it was at MWC in Barcelona over a year ago, but we would not have been able to do that if we hadn't had the strong support of the consortium.
Great, good to hear. So we've got some OEMs in the room, we've got some other members. Be brutally honest. start with you, Mike. What do we do? What do we need to do as the SDL to get better? What do we need to improve on?
From Elektrobit side, we see a huge opportunity in what we call deep integration of apps. When you look at CarPlay and Android Auto, apps are, first of all, the whole thing takes over the RVI system, and the app still, it's like a screen that you tune in, like in TV. And SDL right now is to some extent still like that, but we see a huge opportunity to break this up and support a deeper integration of app's functionality. Not so much the app itself, but the functionality that apps and data that the app providing. Okay,
thank you. Lonnie, anything on what can we do? We always want to get better. I mean, I always want to get better. What should we be doing? Come on, man, give it to us.
Yeah. What I hear from our team is there's an opportunity to help in the video stability, and as I talked earlier, we're very interested in what will be happening as far as the streaming of video as we look into dash cams, et cetera. So I think that's one area we look forward to working with the team and setting up more protocols and standards, I guess, move forward there.
Okay, great.
From my point of view, actually, the main challenge in front of SDLC, like with many other consortium, because Luxoft has been around, we participated in Geneva, we participated in AGL and the other similar stories, and what we see that the main challenge is usually not technical, but organizational or administrative. In the consortium, in any kind of consortium, it's not only about SDL, it's everywhere. It's really hard to get everybody's opinion count and at the same time make sure that the technology is developed not the way how everybody wants, it's not possible, but at least mainstream with everybody else. You can have, and then again, I'm not talking now about SDLC, but I could talk about some other examples that we had in the past that you can try to contribute to a consortium, very good idea, but then it doesn't have attraction with everybody, with many companies, and then it fails. On the other hand, ideas which are not that good, but supported by a couple of members then get pushed through. So I think there is no ideal answer to this question. Definitely the format which is decided right now I think is very good. Often meetings which has to be done between all members where everybody are able to express their opinion. Luxoft is able to express opinion. We're very happy about that, but also everybody else. And I think it's really the way to go forward. As the consortium is young, but I think it shows very right way and very right path to go forward. It's not easy, but from what I see at least, some of the problems that already happened at this stage of time in other organization, another consortium didn't happen here, and I just wish it will not happen. So we will continue the same way, and it will just be better, and all the process will just improve.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, guys. I mean, that's positive to hear that kind of stuff. I like that. Kind of give a little. We've talked about vehicle data and there's access to vehicle data. Give us, just give us some insight into how you can use vehicle data and accessing it, and what types, of development that you guys have gone through. If you've gone through some where you're using it, and why it's important, and how the features that you can create with that. Yuri?
Well, we definitely look at the vehicle data from automotive perspective, as we are being OEM company. Automotive company, not yet OEM, automotive company. We definitely,
you don't want to be an OEM.
That's what we thought also. We worked with you long enough to see that it's difficult. So yeah, we definitely look at what vehicle data you need to enable next generation use cases. And definitely the huge next generation use cases is autonomous vehicle. So vehicle data becoming critical, the most important than ever, maybe now in the car. How do you collect data from the front-facing camera, from all the sensors around the vehicle, how you collect it, but also how you send it to external sources, because you're no longer able to process and control all this data inside the car. What you definitely have to have with this kind of amount of information is some external source where you can send all of this information, processes, and then get it back. One of these approaches is definitely telematics units, which you just use to stream through 3G, LTE models and similar things. But definitely, I'm sure that SDL has a space in this area. So if you can use some of the SDL apps for scenarios like insurance company, if you have insurance apps that help you to track your behavior, driver's behavior, and rate you based on that. Other use cases which are definitely very interested and important in this industry is the helper app. So somebody
Personal assistance.
Personal assistance. Sorry, I couldn't find this name. Personal assistance app with somebody who can help you to guide to the right place, choose restaurants. That's all very much SDL focused approaches. So the more we go to the future, the more the data from the vehicle and has to be put it externally. There is a big challenge in this. How do you send data and get data back without being able for it to compromise, without having cases like was with this Jeep hacking, where guys remotely were able to control the vehicle completely. But yeah, that's the challenge that the whole automotive industry have to solve together, and I'm sure that it will bring all the scenarios you can use in the car to absolutely new level.
Great, Mike, any thoughts or tips on utilizing vehicle data?
I mean, maybe just a simple comment. Vehicle data is not easy. That's a challenge. It's a challenge because it's a lot of data at a high frequency, so it needs to be handled properly. This is a way to challenge any system. And as you also mentioned, when there's new data coming, this requires some nice approach to handle that. However, this is what separates us from something like CarPlay or Android Auto, so this is definitely beneficial. Moving forward, I think we need to be very careful in the way how we define future vehicle data so that we can make sure that all the different OEMs with their different systems and the different types of data can be covered in that.
Sure, great. Lonnie, anything?
You know, just to, I guess to add incrementally what we've been talking about here would just be, for us, a use case again is in fleet, and the ability for us to help improve performance, improve profitability, reduce carbon exposure, et cetera, by again being able to better identify where assets are, and to for health reasons, for safety reasons, for financial reasons, et cetera. But fleets.
Yeah, lots of important stuff in there. That's great. I appreciate all those answers. Thank you very much. I've got one more question and I'll see if the audience has any questions. But you guys were all at the hackathon. Some of you guys were there. Mike, you were there like all day, weren't you? You were there most of the day.
Yeah,
like,
not all the
Lonnie came in for happy hour. So tell me, were there any hackers that introduced themselves, and asked any questions, and what type of advice did you give them, or if nobody was seeking you out, what type of advice do you want to give the developers in the audience to get started and get rolling in SDL?
Let me take it first. So I would agree. I would be probably the last person you would ask for advice at a hackathon, but I think that my colleagues that were there with me were probably the more appropriate ones who could provide the technical advice. What I would like to comment though is just the the excitement that was there at the hackathon, the creative flow. Again, just the various ways that everybody can participate, and the sharing and the teamwork, I guess, is just the thing. Nobody has to have the right answer, and I was just amazed at the amount of sharing that was going on, and the instant friendships that suddenly evolved on the spot to address or find a different creative way to address a problem.
Great. Mike, anything?
It was my first time at a hackathon. Very interesting experience. I think what's really important is to focus when you have an idea just on what gets you there the easiest as a first step. With SDL we have an approach that is kind of made for prototyping because it's so easy. You can just start doing something, and with all the tools that are out there, you can start testing very easily. So I think we're in a great situation where people can just start doing something.
Great advice. Yuri?
Well, it was my first time at Hackathon. I know that it's not the first Hackathon, but it was my first time here, and I actually was very excited. For me, it was some part of this history. I was participated personally, and I was the one sometimes who talking on behalf of Luxoft that there will be a point of time where mobile app developers will come and will develop apps for cars or connected to cars. And yesterday I saw it happening. So honestly saying, I was really pleased that something that we talked about for such a long time really happening, and it was really nice. Some of the ideas, I talked to a couple of people who really came from mobile side, not like we from automotive side. It was really interesting that they see a potential there. They see some ideas that I couldn't even think of that this is possible inside the vehicle, but they have absolutely different paradigm and approach how to look into the vehicle. I think it's very nice and very collaborative environment. So very happy about the scene. As for advice, again, it's a little bit difficult for us being very automotive focused company and very focused on the core part. But I would think that the first thing you have to understand as mobile app developer about SDL, that it's, again, much more flexible system. Maybe it's worth to spend time understanding how not only mobile API works, but also how the core part works. And this allows you to understand what more you can do with the vehicle, or how deep you can integrate with IVI system, and what actually can get you with the car. Because again, if you try to develop for Android Auto, that's pretty limited. It allows you very limited amount of things that you can do. But with SDL, it's much more. Also, the API is growing, the functionality is growing. So by thinking of this in front, in advance, before making the app, it gives you much more opportunity, and it gives you much more potential what you can do with your app, with the vehicle. And yeah, I think maybe that's what can be started as a starting point for before even brainstorming and designing the app.
Great. Thank you guys for the advice. Thank you for the contributions, each and every one of you. We will open up. We've got a couple of moments. Are there any questions from our audience for our panelists? No, you guys are all getting tired now. All right, then I will say thank you very much, gentlemen, and a round of applause for Yuri, Mike, and Lana.